another Tonic Craft Kit unboxing video. Have a little guest with me. This is Pumpkin, for those of you who are asking to see her. Look up there, Pumpkin. Can you look up? You look up? No? She's a little bit too big to go on screen now, but she's gorgeous, adorable little doggy. I love her so much, but she's a little bit needy today because her canines are coming in. She's lost one so far, but I'm hopefully going to try and film this while she's sitting next to me in a chair. But we shall see how it goes. If you hear any little noises, it's tiny little Pumpkin wanting attention. So I'm going to put her in the chair next to me. And hopefully we can get on with the craft kit unboxing, hey? So today's one is for kit number 68, which I think is either called Frames for Friends or Assorted Frames. The sticker says Assorted Frames, but we got told it was called Frames for Friends, so I'm not sure which is the correct name. I'm also holding Pumpkin because she wouldn't settle in the chair next to me, so hopefully we can do this together, Pumpkin, yes? So, first of all, let's have a look at what's in this month's Tonic Craft Kit. We'll go with the bag of Nuvo goodies first. And you know last month we had the new bag. This month we've also got the new folder design as well, which matches the bag, but it's like in a inverse colourway. So it's grey on white instead of white on grey. So, let's tip all of this out first. And the first things that we're getting in this month's kit is a full-size Nuvo hybrid ink pad, and this is the Safari green colour. Now originally the hybrid ink pads came out in these full sizes. There was 7 of them. You had 4 colours and 3 neutrally kind of tones, I think. Or was it... No, maybe it was 3 colours, 3 neutral tones and the clear mark ink pad. And this is one of the original colours, the Safari green. It's a really gorgeous deep dark green and a really lovely ink to stamp in for outlines for things, for sentiments, all sorts of different kind of stamping. And being a hybrid ink pad, just like their mini ink cubes, you can use it for stamping and then watercolouring, or stamping and then using your alcohol pens, your watercolour pencils, pretty much anything that you want to. If you want to watercolour in with your mousses, you want to use your sparkle sprays over the top, glitter markers, anything you want to really, you can use this ink with. So you don't have to have decided what you want to do with your stamped image before you stamped it. If you use one of these kind of inks, you can do whatever you want to afterwards then. Then, on the same line as inks, we've also got a mini ink cube. So originally the clear mark came out in the large pad as well, but then they brought it out, I think it was the Principal Inks pad set. And I think it came with the white, the black and this, or perhaps it was the light grey, the blackness, I can't 100% remember, but it came out in a small set of 3 ink pads. So we've got one of these clear mark ones in the kit as well. They're so useful. The original one I've had on my desk literally since I got it, and I'm always reaching for it whenever I'm doing heat embossing because it's just so useful to have there, and it's a really lovely juicy ink pad as well. They don't do a re-inker for it, however I have been trying I think it was the Versamark re-inker that I used in the one that I have on my desk, and it worked perfectly. It didn't like eat away the foam of the pad or anything. So if you do want to re-ink them with another brand of clear ink, it does seem to be working. Obviously try that at your own risk, but it does seem to be working for me. So that is the ink pad that we're getting, and we're getting a clear mark ink pad because... You don't get a pumpkin tail, sorry about that. But we're getting the clear ink pad because we've got a mini pot of embossing powder. And this is the silver Moonlight embossing powder. And I'm going to tell you later on how many projects I have done with this. And I still have just under half of the pot left, so it really does go a long way, this little pot. And my tutorial video that's going to be corresponding with kit number 68 this month, that'll be up tomorrow, is actually focusing a lot on the embossing powder as well, and some of the drop too. So that is the little mini embossing powder that we've got. You can buy a full bottle of this if you want to get hold of one as well. Maybe you really like the kind of powder that Nuvo is, or maybe you just really love this sparkly silver colour. You can get hold of a full pot of it as well. And then the full-size Nuvo drop that we're getting is called Wisteria Purple, and it's a gorgeous light purple that's got a metallic finish to it. And I'm also in the tutorial video, I show you a technique of turning your textured Craft Perfect card into a textured metallic or pearlescent Craft Perfect card, and it works really, really well. So you can also use this kind of a drop that's in a sort of matching colour to the cardstock to be able to turn it into a pearlescent textured cardstock as well. So we've got that in the kit too. So the next thing in this month's kit is not Pumpkin's nose, it is a packet of Craft Perfect dimensional foam pads, and these are the 5mm square size, so those small little ones, but you get 609 of them in this set. So if you've been doing crafting for a long time, you probably recognise tiny little foam squares like this from doing like decoupage from like kits and things that you would get, and these are a lovely 2mm thick kind of thickness. But in the tutorial video, and also in one of the samples I'll show you later, I was combining these with embossing powder to create a kind of like different sort of effect that you might not have seen before. So although these are foam pads, you can use them more for like kind of technique based things on your cards as well. It doesn't just have to be as a dimensional adhesive, you can actually use them for technique-y kind of things as well. So you've got a whole packet of those, and 609 of them is going to last you a long time. And I've done a couple of card versions and I've only used, you know, like basically 2 rows. I've just taken them from awkward places. But yeah, they're going to last you a really long time. So you've got those. Then you also have a whole packet of the card blanks and envelopes. They are the 7x7 size, and they're in the bright white colour, and you actually get 10 in here as well with the envelopes. It does actually say everything in the American terms on the packaging, so if you know the equivalents, I'm not 100% sure on the equivalents, but I think I remember that they're 300 GSM cardstock, which says it's £111. And then I think the envelopes are like a 240 kind of weight, and these say they're £44. So I don't know if that corresponds, but that's what I'm kind of remembering in my mind. But that's what it says that they are. And 7x7's a really different kind of size. If you like making 6x6 cards, maybe you've always wanted an extra bit of white space around the edge, you know, you can put it on a 7x7 card instead of a 6x6 card blank. And also, where did I put them? Over here. You can cut them in half if you want to. So I'm not sure if this is an actual size, being roughly, I think I actually cut them to 3¼ inches by the 7 inches. I'm not sure if that is an actual size of card, but it kind of makes sort of like a mini slimline-ish kind of size. So I'm not sure if some of the Tonic mini slimline dies might work on this, or if you just love making smaller cards, it just makes your card blanks go further, and then you've got 10 envelopes that you could turn into a memory book or something, using a spine mechanism, or you know, whatever you want to do really. You can also just utilise these for their card if you want to as well. If they're a gorgeous 300 GSM white card, you can just do your die cutting from that, use them to create inky backgrounds, you know, all sorts of different things you can do with these if you don't like larger cards. But if you do like larger cards, then you have a pack of 10 of them, so it's really lovely for using to create your cards. And I'm sure actually a lot of the dies in this set, you can create these different frames with like all the different elements, so I'm sure they'd work really nicely for creating really large kind of frames as well, which is probably why they've given us a 7x7 inch set of cards. So you've got those two. And then the final like extra sort of Nuvo / Craft Perfect kind of item is the Nuvo stamp cleaning cloth even. So we had one of these a little while back. I'm thinking it wasn't that long ago, but the way time goes by, I think it is probably like a year ago or so now. But this is the Nuvo stamp cleaning cloth. It comes in packaging like this, so it's on a flat piece of cardstock, and inside this packaging it's actually in another like plastic sleeve that is keeping it moist, because this is one of those like stamp chamois things that if it's exposed to the air, it's then going to go hard. But you can then re-moisten it with water to be able to use it to clean your stamps. So this is my one. I actually have it resting on the top of my monitor arm that my camera comes out of, and I was using it earlier, so this part of it I just wetted to be able to use it, but this part is still dry from where it was just resting over the top of there. And basically it's basically like using a baby wipe, but it's like a reusable baby wipe that doesn't put all of those fibres onto your stamps as you're cleaning them. And I don't know whether maybe it's the kind of feeling of this. It's kind of, it feels like a little bit sort of silky kind of feeling. I think maybe that is what helps get a lot of the like proper pigmenty sort of staining inks off of your stamps as well, because when I was cleaning the ones from the kit that I'd been using the Safari Green ink on, it actually got most of it off, which I was quite amazed by, because you know, a lot of the time I don't bother properly cleaning a stamp that I've used more of a permanent kind of ink on, because I know it just won't come off, but it actually just came off just with water. So imagine if you use this with your stamp cleaning solution that you can get from Tonic as well. I'll show you the little bottle of that here. I've got bottle of it here. But yes, yeah, pumpkin, you don't have to snip everything. So you've got the stamp cleaning solution there as well that you can use in conjunction with that cloth if you want to, but it works perfectly just with water as well. So that is the last kind of extra item that we've got in the kit. Okay, then next we have the Craft Perfect cardstock from the kit. Sorry, I'm doing this bit left-handed now because Pumpkin's in my right arm because she was getting too heavy. So we actually have 8 sheets of cardstock in this month's kit. So we've got 5 textured Craft Perfects in beautiful colours. We have got grass green, we've got buttermilk yellow, we have got Ballet pink, sugared lilac, and then fuchsia pink as well for the texture Craft Perfect. And these are the same ones that Tonic have always had, that have that gorgeous linen kind of texture on one side and then they're smooth on the other side. So if you want to do stamping on them, you can use the reverse side of them. And then we also have 3 sheets of speciality cardstock as well. So we've got 2 different pearlescent ones, which are double-sided pearlescents. They have that beautiful finish on both sides of them. We have the fresh mint, which is that beautiful minty green kind of colour. And then we also have pearl white as well. So really gorgeous, useful colours to have. That pearl white in particular, I mean, thinking ahead to Christmas kind of cards, just cutting your snowdrifts and stuff from a pearly white rather than just normal white really adds like a good effect on your Christmas cards too. And then we also have 1 sheet of their glitter card, which is sugar crystal. So it's kind of got like pink and greeny kind of reflectiness in the glitter that they use on the white crystal one. But again, great for snow and things, or just for adding subtle differences in a background, or you know, when you have intricate detail dies that then have the backing plate to go with them as well, you know, having that as the backing plate just makes it look a little bit different from the white card blank that you're putting it onto, and gives it a gorgeous, lovely little bit of sparkle as well. And their glitter card is pretty much no shed. I don't think they can say it is no shed because you do get a couple of particles off of it every now and then, but it's pretty no shed. And it's really good for die cutting as well. It cuts really, really easily, and you don't get like bits of it flaking off or anything in fine details. It cuts really, really nicely. So those are all of the cardstocks from this month's kit. And then finally we have the stamps and dies. So I will just move the box out of the way. Right, so as I said before, I have got the sticker for this month's kit, which is why I'm not sure of the name of the kit, because the sticker says Assorted Frames, but I think it might be called Frames for Friends. But either way, it's a gorgeous kit that's about frames. So that is the sticker that I've got. I presume that'll be the same one that you would get as well. And then we have got the stamp set and the die set. I've put all of my dies onto an A5 magnetic sheet just to make it easier to kind of keep them all together, but they come on 2 A5 sheets of acetate. And you can definitely keep them on there if you want to. I mean, it kind of depends how many times you're going to be using them, taking the dies on and off, and how long they'll stay stuck to it and stuff. And you can, even if you want to, just get a magnetic sheet and put it behind those acetate sheets, and maybe make one cling to each side of the magnetic sheet. And then, you know, as the double-sided foam sort of wears out of stickiness, then you've got the magnetic sheet already in there in your folder as well. But whatever kind of works for you, I just tend to always put mine on a magnetic sheet ready. So this kit, as it's called Frames, it has got lots of elements in here that allow you to create different frames out of different pieces, and there's so many gorgeous different designs in here. I have some of them cut to be able to show you them. I did end up using one of them on a card, so I haven't got that one actually you know, as a single element to show you. But the way all of these work, you've got this one here, this gorgeous one with the rose and the leaf in there. You've got this more straight kind of one with like mitered corners to it. You've got this curvy one with a sort of asymmetrical design coming from here, which I really like. And then you've got this more of like an actual right angled kind of corner with larger floral designs in it as well. And the way these kind of work is all of them have that verso edge to them. So all of them have a separate edge that will cut you a piece that looks like this. And I've cut all of these out to be able to show you in case you're not 100% sure what I kind of mean. But you have this piece for all of them to cut your outside edge. But then for the intricate detail on the top, you cut this one with the pattern inside, because this pattern, I mean, that looks a little bit peculiar when you look at it by itself. You're kind of like, what on earth is that? But when you combine it with that outside edge, you get this beautiful kind of design. And if I move these out of the way, I cut one of each of these to kind of show you exactly what I kind of mean. I'll put them in similar places to where they are on the die set so you can kind of compare them. So we've got... Oh, I was just thinking, why is that backwards? Obviously because the die is backwards. But we've got all of these gorgeous designs here. So this is the one that has that rose sort of detail. And for my tutorial video, as I was saying earlier, I was focusing on the embossing powder, and I was actually showing you this triple thick embossed to make like faux metal embellishments kind of technique. So all of these ones that I'm going to show you now are done in that kind of a fashion. So that one fits on top of there like so, and then we've got this gorgeous one here which kind of reminds me of a harp. We've got this beautiful floral one as well, and then I've also got this one cut out too, but I actually ended up using that one on a card. But you can see how, because they're Verso dies, that green is exactly the same size as the outside edge for this, so it basically just fills in all of those details. And on these ones that have these beautiful swirly details, the outside piece obviously still cuts them because it needed to have cut them for the interior piece, if that makes sense. But when you place them back over the top, it's kind of hidden, or you could even cut the bottom layer off as well. But this kind of die, it allows you to do paper piecing if you wanted to, without having to undercut and fussy cut around things. So this one, for example, with that beautiful rose design, you could easily cut that out of pink and green, maybe have the backing from white or from vellum, and piece those bits back into it, and you've instantly got that backing piece behind there. And if there, there was any areas here that you wanted to fill in as well with a different background colour to go with your card, you can actually cut those out and put them in too. But it just saves a little bit of time of having to fussy cut around the edge of something to be able to paper piece it. And it's a really lovely way of having your dies like this. Sometimes it is difficult to look at the die set and think, how is that going to cut out, which is why I wanted to have some of them cut out to show you. But they are some really gorgeous designs, and this one could definitely be slightly more masculine looking, although it really does kind of remind me of a harp. And I was saying in the tutorial video, it kind of looks like musical note staves on there as well, so it might go for more of a masculine card. Maybe you've got some of the musical instruments that Tonic brought out years ago, and you could have like a double bass or a guitar, or something to go along with it as well. I think there's lots of different areas and occasions that you could use these for, but some really, really pretty designs. And this one in particular, as I was saying before, it's got like these mitered corners. So I know one of these is detail and one's solid, but you can actually line those corners up to create a larger square frame. You see, that's the whole point of this kit, is to be able to create different frames. And I was actually really enjoying mixing different ones together. So for example, you could mix the two of these together and create almost like an actual frame if you line up the sort of right angle pieces in there, but you have different elements across the different corners. Or you could take this sort of slightly more geometric-y kind of one with the straight lines in there and bring in a more organic kind of design with a lot more swirly designs in there as well. And obviously you can move these as far apart as you want to make that frame even bigger. You could combine multiple different ones together to create a different shaped frame, or again to just make it longer to fit whichever project you're doing as well. But I just really wanted to show you those cut out so you can really see what they're like. But I have used most of them on the cards that I'll show you as well. So coming back to the die set, those are all of those corners that I've shown you. We also have 3 sentiments in here as well. We've got You're Invited, and it has the bubble around the edge. We've got Just to Say, again with the bubble around the edge. And then we've also got For a Friend, and I have used all of these on the card project so you can see them cut out as well and exactly what they look like. You've got some beautiful leaf designs here. I love this leaf. It's actually the same leaf that's over here in this design. You can actually like duplicate it and add it back in again, which I think looks really nice. And you've got again the interior and the exterior, so you can cut just the plain outside shape and map the detail one on top of it and do some paper piecing if you want, or even do some Nuvo flooding kind of designs as well. And then you've got this small little leaf here too. Really, really pretty kind of like asymmetrical kind of leaf with that veining detail that's in there, but I really enjoyed both of those individual leaves. So if you wanted to extend any of these, maybe this one you wanted to add some floral and foliage into it, you could actually just take some of the flower dies that are in here and the leaf dies and extend part of the design around, but still have this swirly flourishy part to it as well, or have some of these coming off the outside edges and stuff too. There's lots of ways of using them. Then you also have a square which fits all of the sentiments in there, and it also fits the sentiments for the stamp set as well. So you can put any sentiment that you want to inside this square and have it inside the frame. You can just use them by themselves, whatever you kind of want to really. And then finally we have 4 different flowers in here as well. So you've got this one, which I thought looked a lot like a 4-leaf clover, so I've kind of used it on a sort of a good luck kind of a card. You've got this 6 petal flower which has got real points on it. You've got this gorgeous like flat petaled flower that's got lovely random, sorry, pumpkin is licking my chin. It's got really random like embossing spots all over that one. And then you've also got this tiny little daisy flower as well. So sorry that they weren't in as much detail as I was talking, but I've still got pumpkin on my lap. But that is the little 4-pointed flower, and you can see they've actually got like different details here with little cut lines coming in and where the petals kind of join. So I think that kind of makes it better for shaping your flowers if you like to shape all of your different flowers. I think that would make it better for trying to get like real good curvatures without the petals breaking off maybe, or getting them to like curl into each other nicer. So if you're really good at making your 3-dimensional flowers and using a ball tool to shape them, that might be really helpful for you. There's a dog hair on my die set now as well. But yeah, hopefully you've seen that in enough detail. I'll show you the sentiments up close. So that one says you're invited, and then this one says just to say, and then this one over here says for a friend, but you will see them in the card samples in a minute as well. And then we've also got the stamped sentiments. She's finally settled in the chair next to me now. We've got the stamped sentiments where all of them will fit inside that square design. If you want to use them like that, they'll all fit in there. You can use any of these kind of frame elements to go around the edge of these and frame those gorgeous sentiments into there. You can do whatever you think looks good for your card, whatever kind of thing works well for the theme of your card, for the recipient of your card, or whatever mood you're in as you're making your card as well. You can kind of pick whichever ones you want to use. And all of these sentiments, they say thank you, never stop dreaming, love and hugs, well done, with love, and then you'll be missed. And they're really gorgeous actually. I really enjoyed these kind of sentiments. The well done one I actually showed in my tutorial video, how you can actually flood the letters with your Nuvo drops, put the embossing powder over the top and then heat it, and you get this bubbled kind of look. So I do show you that in tomorrow's tutorial video if you want to see that. And I've also got that little sample of the foam pads as well, which I will show this piece and how I made it in the tutorial video tomorrow. But I was also saying in that video I was actually cutting my stamps up, so this well done I actually snipped carefully between the words well and done so that I could move them slightly. So I put the well slightly further over this way and the done over that way on the card that I was doing, because I wanted more of like a rectangular sort of frame. So you can actually do that, and as long as with these photopolymer stamps, if you use a good sharp pair of scissors like the little Tonic Tim Holtz snips, and you just do one cut, so you can do it in little snips, but you do one cut, you can still puzzle piece them back together. And because they are photopolymer, they will actually stay back together, they'll hold back together as well, because photopolymers are quite sticky, so they will actually hold back together, and then you can just stick them back on your block as well. And I did also cut a little element out of this one too, because I really loved these leaves in this With Love one, so I actually cut a little individual leaf out of there and used it on one of my samples as well, which I'll show you in a minute but you can actually snip into them and it still works perfectly because I did it in small little snips that all joined up and I wasn't taking away any photopolymer. It completely fits back in like a puzzle piece to that stamp, so I can still stamp it perfectly and get that whole design to work again. Do just be really careful when you're doing this kind of thing, but I just really love that leaf and I needed something to finish off the card, so I decided to sacrifice my stamp and cut into it, but you can definitely still use it exactly as it's meant to be as well. I could actually have even cut it off of here, it might have been easier. I hadn't really noticed that that leaf was, it's not actually the same, but I could have cut it off of there instead. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that they do stick back together if you cut them apart as well. So those are all of the stamps, and I will tidy up all of the stuff I've got here and I'll come back and show you all of the 7 samples that I've created as well. Okay, so these are the 7 samples that I have created with kit number 68. The first one I think is more kind of like what they're supposed to do, like using this one kind of as a frame, but I've actually combined 2 of them together to create a frame rather than using 2 of the same one. But I have this one left over here, so you could have put 2 of the exact same one opposite each other. They're designed to work like that as well, or you can mix and match them. So I really like that ability of them. And the way I've done these is I've cut them from the grass green, but then I've also cut them from the pearlescent green and like shadowed them, because I felt like just the pearlescent green was too light compared to the safari green stamping of the thank you. So having the grass green underneath it kind of gives you that little drop shadow, and just sort of makes the darker green of the stamping tie in together. And then I also thought, well, you know, even though it's a frame kind of design, there's nothing to stop it like cascading down, because I was thinking when I do my embellishments I tend to sort of go like that as kind of like how I lay out little extra embellishments. So I thought, why not bring that foliage down a little bit? So I cut one of each of the 2 different leaves and had them sort of trailing off the frame as well. And then I've done 3 of each flower, or 3 flowers in each 3 colours, so the dark pink, the light pink, and then the buttermilk as well. And then I've used some of the old Nuvo crystal gems. I really wish they'd bring these back, but I used some of those to add as the flower centres, but you can do Nuvo drops as well. I would recommend doing the Nuvo drops beforehand, letting them dry, and then picking them off and sticking them on top of there, because the flower has a hole in the centre, and if you put a Nuvo drop straight on something that has a hole in, it's going to make like a little donut and you're going to get a hole in your Nuvo drop because it'll sink through it. So gems or pre-made Nuvo drops will work perfectly for the centres of your flowers, or sequins and stuff as well. But that's like basically how they're supposed to be used. But then there's lots of elements in the set, as with all of Tonic's die sets really, that can be used for other different things as well. So I just tried to think of a few other ideas of ways that you might want to use them. So that here I've used the frame portion, but I've done it 2 separate sections and kind of using them backwards, because technically the long side would be the outside of the frame because of the mitered corners, and this would be on the inside of the frame, but I've kind of used them the reverse way around. And then I've also used one of the flowery kind of designs inside the square to create my little apertures as well. And this is the piece that I wanted that little leaf for, that I cut out of my stamp so I could just stamp the leaf. If you wanted to, you could definitely mask as well. It would be rather fiddly. You'd have to keep taking your little mask bits off, stamping it, and then, you know, it would be too much of a faff for me, so that's why I cut into my stamp to use it. But I just love that little leaf. I think, you know, it's going to be a useful leaf for all sorts of different things, so I don't mind that I've cut it apart separately from that little stamp, but it's a really cute little design. I just felt like the interiors needed something, and actually how I created the interior portions of this, originally I wanted to take my safari green ink pad and swipe it down the card, but because this is such a dark colour, I don't tend to always use such dark colours to do that swiping technique, so I didn't really like how it turned out. And then I was trying to pat the ink pad on, because actually if you pat your ink pad on, you actually get that kind of canvasy texture that the actual ink pad is made from, which gives a cool look. But then I was like, no, I don't really like that either. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to cut 3 squares out of it. And then I was like, well, actually, I don't really like the squares that came out of it either. Maybe if you're going for a slightly more grungy kind of card, it wasn't really going with any of the other bits that I had created for any of my cards. So I decided against using them. But then I had this off to the side and I was like, why don't I just use that as a stencil, because I've already created it. So I actually put it onto this card front, moved it down to where I wanted it to be, and inked through using a brush and the Safari Green ink pad, so that gave me a slightly lighter green colour. You can see direct to paper the Safari Green is quite dark, but using it in an ink blending fashion, it gives you a lighter colour. And then I cut the squares out of the grass green with a flower in the centre and placed them back over the top after I'd done the stamping on them, so you can kind of see from the side that that's actually a square of inking on the back layer of the card to create that. And you definitely could have just left them as the inked squares as well, but I felt like this gave it slightly more of a modern look, putting that aperture over the top with this gorgeous like curved plus sign. The way I've oriented them in these, it gives like a curved plus sign. But you could have also oriented them the other way as well, because the original ones that I cut out of here, I'd also put the flower in the middle as well, and I'd oriented them this way. And actually, if you did them out of the same colour and you put them on top of each other, you get like a pointy star shape in the centre of that. I don't know how clear that is to see, but if you twist them 90 degrees and cut them again, you get different looks, and you could layer them up and do something fun that way as well. So there's other ways of using those pieces too. But that was that card, and that is the For a Friend cutout, if you wanted to see what that looks like cut out. That's 2 cut from grass green stacked on top of each other, and then the backing plate is cut from the pearlescent white cardstock. And this is from that sugar crystal glitter cardstock as well, just to add a little bit of sparkle. Then the main reason why in the first place I was cutting these pieces out was to get these flowers, and I thought, well, if I'm cutting that flowery shape out, I might as well put the square around it, and then I can use these pieces. And then I was cutting them from this because I thought it was all going to work, and I didn't really like how it turned out, but I still liked that concept. So I made my original card that I had planned to, because I thought like these 4-petaled flowers look a lot like lucky clovers, so I thought, well, 3 of those on a card will look lovely. And then I was like, well, for the stems I could just use a black pen and draw it, but it's a craft kit, so I want to try and use the pieces from the kit. So I took, it's this one, this design piece, and I just took one of them, and I got all 3 of the stems from one of them. I was just snipping into it. You can see this portion here is this bit, so this whole long side I snipped around and created that stem for the longest lucky clover. And then for these portions, I think, which bit, oh, it's this side, isn't it? This bit is there. So this bit is down up to here on this side, and then this piece is flipping it up that way and using the other side to cut this portion off. So I've used one half of that side for that one, the other half of that side for this one, and then this whole portion down the side of here for that middle one. And it just gives, you know, like a funky little stem to these little 4-leaf or lucky clovers, shamrocks. And again, I've used those old crystal gems from Nuvo in the centres of the flowers as well. And then I did Never Stop Dreaming, because there wasn't a good luck sentiment on either of the dies or the stamp set, but I thought Never Stop Dreaming is kind of like a good luck sort of a sentiment. And then the card looked a little bit too empty, so I took actually some of the Safari Green, even though these are a hybrid ink pad, and they do look a little bit peculiar when you add water to them. Like if you squish a bit onto your mat and you put water on it, it acts peculiar compared to a distress ink or something, but you can still splatter with it and get splattered effects as well. So I did a little bit of splattering just to add a little bit of something in the background. Obviously, if I wasn't working with a kit and limited to the supplies that were in the kit, I probably would have gone in with the moss coloured glitter marker and done sparkly splatter in the background. But you can, you know, do whatever you like really, but I just wanted to show also that you can actually splatter with the hybrid ink pads too. So that's that one. Then this is the main card that I make in tomorrow's tutorial video. I don't actually put the entire card together, but I show you all the elements. So I show you how easy it is to turn your cardstock into a pearlescent textured cardstock using your Nuvo drop from the kit. Then I also show you stacking up your sentiments and adding your pearlescent Nuvo drops to the top to give a pearlescent finish that would match with that, or you could have die cut this sentiment from that piece that I just showed you as well. And then I'm also showing you how to create your own faux metal embellishments using one of the dies from the kit, also the mini embossing clear mark ink pad, and also the mini tub of embossing powder as well. And this is the point where I wanted to tell you actually. So from this tiny little tub of embossing powder, I still have just under half of it left. I can't remember if it was 100% full, so probably about half of what we were given left, right? And with this little pot, I have done 3 layers of embossing powder on this die cut, 3 layers on this die cut, 3 layers on that leaf. I also did the sentiment here and the sentiment and these squares around this one, and that was all just using this tiny pot, and it's only half gone. So even though these are tiny little pots that we get as like little samples in the kits, they really do go a long way. You know, if you actually try using them, they do actually go further than you think that they will. So if you love doing your sentiments, it's going to last a really long time for your sentiments. But a lot of these smaller sample products, for example, the Nuvo Sparkle Sprays, those small little bottles, they're like quite dinky little ones. But when I was cleaning one of them out that I'd got to the end of, I'm sure it had like, it was either 20 or 30 full sprays inside that tiny little sample bottle. So even though some of the products we get in kits are sample ones, they still do have enough product in them to be able to do multiple projects and stuff as well. And I know it's not always that obvious. You kind of think like, well, that's a tiny little pot of embossing powder that they've given us, but no, you really can do quite a few techniques with it. So I would say from the pieces that I had done, if you just wanted to do this like faux metal embellishment kind of thing, you probably could get, obviously as you're getting to the end of the pot, you'll have to keep tipping extra on, because, you know, you won't have much left and you have to keep like pulling it back up and putting it on the die cut to cover everything. But I reckon you could probably get 4, at least 4 of these die cuts out of it, maybe even 5, you know, with 3 layers on. So I think it's a decent sized little pot. And if you've never tried the faux metal embellishment, it's basically just stacking up 2 to 3 die cuts, and then using your clear mark embossing powder and 3 layers of this, and I show it all in the tutorial video. But that's how you get this kind of faux metal embellishment kind of look. And if you've never tried it before, you've got the perfect little pot here to try that kind of technique with. So this was the card that I used that main technique on, and I've done that gorgeous rose kind of one, but I've used one of them and then brought this extra leaf in because it's actually the same leaf that's here, but I haven't had to snip it out. We get given that leaf as well, which is really lovely. But you could also have done another frame in the opposite corner as well, either putting them point of leaf to a bit of swirl or moving them closer together and maybe interlocking them in a different way and creating a different aperture in the centre of it. However you want to do it, you could have made a complete focal element like that, but I quite liked the idea of just having that bottom corner with the design in as well. I mean, you could even, if you want to, put them back to back in a different orientation and get more of like a cascading design, or put them like this so you get like a whole diagonal sort of cascade across the card and fill in with some extra of the little leaves as well. There's so many ways of using these corners that I just wanted to really show you that you definitely don't have to just put them opposite each other. You can use just one, mix 2 of them together and stuff as well. So that's that card. Then this one is using one of the extra ones that I have done in the tutorial video, because I had done one of each of them to show all the different ones that you can do. And this one I literally just cut You're Invited 5 times from the pearlescent white, the Ballet pink, the sugar plum purple, the buttermilk and the pearlescent green. And I've just put them all above each other because these swirls look really gorgeous, like nestled in together. So I put them all above each other, and then I just decided it looked far too empty just having the words. So I thought one of these embellishments looks really lovely, and this is almost like a semicircle, this one. So if you had done 2 of these, you could have more of like a wreath design. You could have maybe done this in gold and brought in some red poinsettias for Christmas as well. So many different ways of utilising these and bringing them into different occasions and seasons and stuff as well. I think they'd be really lovely for all sorts of different card making. But that's that one. Then this is another technique that I show in tomorrow's tutorial video. I kept this frame really simple. I've just used this kind of one that reminds me of like music and harps and things. And I've done them offset to make more of a rectangular frame in the centre. So they don't just have to frame the stamps and dies that we've been given. you can make them a different shape or size, maybe even move these out further and put 4 of them so you've got a really big aperture in the middle and have one on each corner. And you can put whatever you want inside them. You can have a beautiful stamped image, you could put a photograph in there, you could frame a gorgeous piece of a background paper that you don't really want to cut up too much, maybe like a gorgeous focal image on it or something. Or if you want to alter the stamps that you get, there are some of them that you can cut into. So for the example, this one, I really carefully used my snips. I think maybe I said this earlier actually, but I really carefully used my snips to cut between the photopolymer so that when I stamped it, I could stamp well and done offset from each other to make it more a rectangular design as well. And also on this one, I moved these circles that fell out of the intricate die cut and I put them in the opposite corners as well to fill in the detail. And then the main part of this card is the technique here, which I show in the tutorial video. This one actually came out puffier than the first one. I only did the first word on this one, but you can see here the outline on this one is much better than the outline on this one, because this one I heat embossed the outline first because that's what I thought I wanted it to look like, and then I decided to try this technique. So I added heat twice to the outside of the stamping portion, so I basically overheated that embossing powder so it sunk into the card. But if you don't want that to happen, then put your powder on your stamped image, tap off the excess, but don't heat set it until you've filled in with Nuvo drops and added powder to that, and then you can heat set it, and then you get a much better outline impression. But it was just another technique that I was just trying to see what it was like, and it works really well. So you can actually heat emboss with your Nuvo drops as well, and they give a cool puffy, crackly kind of texture, so you can do that. And then the final card and the final technique that I show in tomorrow's tutorial video is showing how to use those tiny little 5mm square foam pads that we get in the kit to create some kind of frame element to frame up your sentiment, and using your embossing powder on top of them. So really, really simple ideas, but you know, just something a little bit different that you might not have seen before or tried before. And this is just using 3 of those die cuts there. This one here, I mean, to tie in the silver I could even stick that die cut on there as well, or possibly put it around the opposite way and add that on to there maybe. Maybe it doesn't need it. Or you could have a little bit of it maybe coming in from a different angle. You could put it down that side maybe. Not sure it really needs it, but yeah, just using 3 of them together. You could definitely have repeated this ombre or used all of the colours from the kit and done it all across the background. I just felt like 3 worked quite nicely for it. And then I've used the Love and Hug sentiment. Oh, was there any more sentiments I was supposed to point out that I'd cut out? I guess both of these ones really. That is the Just to Say cutout, and that's the You're Invited cutout. I didn't actually point those out before, but if you wanted to see what those sentiments look like cut out. And then this is the Love and Hugs one stamped. I didn't stamp all of the sentiments, I didn't need all of them, but I've stamped out Love and Hugs. Really beautiful font. Does get slightly blobby with the sparkly embossing powders because they're not fine detail embossing powders. I think they're regular grade, but it still works. They've given us quite chunky kind of sentiment, so it still works even with a regular grade sparkly embossing powder to do your sentiments as well. And then I'd also use the Well Done one as the stamp, the Never Stop Dreaming and the Thank You, and then there's a couple more stamps on the set as well that you can also use with all of your different designs too. So I really hope you enjoyed this unboxing video for Tonic Craft Kit number 68, which is either called Frames for Friends or Assorted Frames. But I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the different ideas of how I've used it, how you don't just have to create a frame with it. You can use bits as borders, a little accent, you can elongate the frame, again using sort of like accents and using some of the square and the flower to create accents, using the interior pieces, cutting into them, and also doing this faux metal embellishment idea. And if you're really interested in that, how to do this puffy effect and also how to do the foam square effect, then do check out tomorrow's tutorial video as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.